You're listening to Tutor Time with Mallory, and now for your host, Mallory Latouche.
And welcome back to Tutor Time with Mallory. Today, I have the pleasure of interviewing Miss Patricia Anderson. How are you doing today, Patricia?
I'm doing great. How about you?
I'm doing wonderful. What is your education background?
I've been around education all my life, so it's gonna be a little bit of a long answer. I grew up in Mississippi and always wanted to be a teacher. So when I graduated from high school, because I was a homebody, I went 35 miles down the road to Delta State University in Mississippi. And it's a teacher's college, much like ECU is. So I earned my bachelor's degree there. Then I started teaching 35 miles farther down the road in Greenville, Mississippi. And at that time, I also earned my master's degree. And that was in the days of commuting back and forth to the campus. So it took me a couple of years to get my master's degree. And then I decided I would end my third year of teaching and then go back to school. So I went to the University of Georgia in Athens, Georgia, and earned my Doctor of Education. So that was in 1980, and I've been at this business ever since. All of my degrees are elementary education because kids are my business and teaching is my business.
What inspired you to want to work in the school or education system?
It's been in my heart, it's been in my blood, it's in my psyche. I am a teacher by heart. When I was teaching school, while I love working with kids, I also learned that I love working with teachers. And one of my colleagues told me one time, she said, you can explain stuff like nobody else can explain it. I've heard that theory described a jillion times and never knew what it meant. But when you told me what it meant, I knew what you were talking about. So it's kind of a gift that I have of being able to interpret and explain and put difficult concepts into practical reality.
How has your career path led you to where you are now?
Wow. I graduated in 1980. I went to a small private college in 1980 where I wore toe socks, bell-bottom jeans, and my students called me Tricia. I did that for 2 years and it was a great experience, but I needed to be at a more stable university that didn't depend only on enrollment for my salary. So I started a job search and ended up here in Greenville, North Carolina. And I knew one person when I got here. And so here I am almost 40 years later and still here and loving it. And my job is teaching teachers. That's always been what I've wanted to do and what I know I'm really good at. But through the course of my career here, I've done a lot of different kinds of things. I've served as chair of the faculty of the whole university. I've been parliamentarian of the faculty senate. And right now I serve as the chair of the department where I work, where I have 14 colleagues. And so I get to be their leader in my work these days.
What are some of your fondest memories working at ECU?
I have this mind of, I remember faces and often I remember specific things about people. So I love my memories of my students. My daughter says that whenever I go someplace that there's always somebody going, Dr. Anderson, is that you? Dr. Anderson, I had you when I was 21 years old. Do you remember me? Of course, this will be 30 years later and they have gray hair and all kinds of other features that of course I don't remember and their names are different, but I can usually call up a memory of someone. So obviously that's always fun and exciting, especially if that person is still in education. But some of my favorite experiences are when a former student will come to me and say, I've decided that I want to have your job. And they decide to go to school and get their doctorate and then begin to work toward the path of being able to teach teachers. And I probably have about 20 former students who are in the quote, in the business of teacher education. And I always tell them that being a professor is the best job in the whole world because of whom all I get to influence. I've always had this save the world mentality. I want to be able to help a lot of kids and a lot of teachers. So if I can teach one teacher how to affect one child, then multiply that times 25 normal class size, and multiply that times the number of years that the teacher teaches. And over my career, I've estimated that I have touched the lives of over 750,000 teachers and kids. So if my theory is, and my goal is save the world, help the kids, I feel like I've really done that. So that's one of my best favorite memories.
What is something you learned about your career path that you didn't know before?
I've learned so much. I learn every day, every semester, every class I teach, there's a new group, there's a new personality. I've had some of the sweetest class groups you could ever had. And then I've had a few groups where we had to have a little come to Tricia meeting multiple times across the semester. And so I'm always surprised by that kind of thing. But I've also learned technology, like I can do Zoom, I teach online, I use Canvas, I've used Blackboard, all of those kinds of systems. We didn't even have computers much when I first started. When I went to Delta State in the 70s, there was no such thing as a computer in a classroom. So my job has required me to keep up with as much as possible the latest and greatest kinds of things. For example, one of my areas of expertise is classroom management, like how to work with kids and work with parents and get done all of the things that have to get done in a classroom. Well, there's this system now called Class Dojo, and it's a computer-based system. So if I like, Mallory, what you're doing, then I can click on my computer and it will show your name and your icon, a little picture that we associate with you, and I can make it go ding, and you know that when you hear ding, it's a good thing. Or I can set it up so that when someone does something they're not supposed to do, I can make it go and make a negative sound about that. And that system is really new and has opened up the world of possibilities. So I've learned a lot of different things, and my goal is, until I retire, to continue to learn a lot of different things. Because if I'm not up to date and relevant, then I'm not teaching my students the best of what there is. So I try very hard to stay up to date as much as possible.
What are the 3 most important skills when it comes to working in the school or education system?
You gave me the question in advance, and I've tried really hard to think about it. In fact, when I came to my office today to do this interview, and I looked around and I said, well, one of the most important skills is organization, which is why I'm not letting you see any more of my office than this space, because there's piles of paper all around. So staying organized is one really just individualized skill that you have to have. Probably one of the most important skills is perseverance. So when you make up your mind that you're going to do something, you stick with it, and you stick with it over time, and you don't give up. One of the things that scares me the most when I talk with teachers is when a teacher says, I've tried everything with this child. Oh my gosh, those are the people I just want to snatch a knot in and go, quit, leave, time for you to retire, go away, we don't want you anymore. Because if they've tried everything, they're lying, because there's always new ideas, new strategies, new people to talk to, new resources, and teachers, just by nature of who we are, we cannot give up. And so when we have challenging kids, challenging students, we have to keep on trying and keep on trying. It's like a book that I read when I was a child, with a little train that could. I think I can, I think I can, I think I can. And that's got to be the heart and soul of a teacher. So when we're talking education or parenting, it's that perseverance that matters so much. And the last little skill that I'll mention is passion. And I have a passion for teaching and for teaching teachers and children. And through my career, which has been a long career, I've not ever let anybody steal my passion for that. A lot of people will say, well, you teach that, don't you get tired of doing the same thing? No, I don't get tired of it at all. I get excited about when my students learn and can do things that they never were able to do before. So in spite of what other people say, in spite of the bumps along the road that I experience, passion is the number one thing that I guard most carefully. I will not lose my passion. And when I do lose my passion, I'm going to quit. That's what I need to do. And that's what anybody needs to do. Because if you're not committed to it, it's not worth your doing it.
What advice would you give the viewers that want to either work in the school or education system?
You know, one of the things that that we think about whenever we're like doing something and learning something new, like if you were to come and be a student in one of my classes, you would be focused on you and your work and what you're doing. So you have a lot of things you have to learn. But from the teaching point of view, you have a lot of things that you need to do to supply the needs of an individual student. So probably the most important thing I've learned over time is to focus on the student and on each individual student. So your needs may be that you need a lot of visual back and forth, this kind of conversation. Someone else may not have access to the same level of technology. So I may need to work with them or talk with them by phone or on email or whatever it might take. I've had a lot of students in my lifetime come sit in my office, and I have a green chair, and I'll say, well, if that green chair could talk, it could really tell you something. But what that green chair has always allowed me to do is to focus on my student and to really give them what I think that they need, that may be super connected with my class, but also is often just life connected or career connected. So when I have the respect of my students, they come to me for things more than how do I write a lesson plan or how do I write a learning objective. It's a lot more than that. And by my being able to focus on them, I think I really have a chance to meet their needs and to give them a little piece of me and of the way I think and the way I teach and what I believe about children and teachers. So I want to plant a little bit of Tricia Anderson inside those teachers. And that's why, go back to my Save the World philosophy, that's why I'm so proud of the fact that I believe I've touched the lives of about 750,000. So a little piece of me lives in all of those people by just being transferred from my students.
Thank you so much, Ms. Anderson. It was an absolute pleasure interviewing you and meeting you.
Thank you so much, Mallory. You've made it easy. Sending the questions in advance was a great strategy, and just being a good listener has made this process easy for me too. If you don't mind, I'm going to put in a plug. If anybody's interested in a career in education, finish up your high school diploma, come to us and let me help you find a pathway to be a teacher. There are lots of different paths that we can follow, some which we can offer some financial support and for sure emotional support and instructional support. So East Carolina, we are it for education, and I encourage folks to take advantage of our programs.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Take care.
Thank you for watching Tutor Time with Mallory. You can find her on the following social media platforms and contact her for interviews.